your energy is way down at 1 or 2, it's like it's amazing you managed to even get here, then hopefully we'll manage to pick you up a little bit. So the best place for our energy to be is maybe 6 or 7. That would be good. And you want to work at like 6 or 7 out of 10. You shouldn't be pushing yourself in yin. You're trying to surrender into the poses, but you're still having to try to get into some of the shapes and then let the poses. What do we do in yin? We allow the poses to get into your body. You can discuss that with me, Christine, later. You should be lying, relaxing, and preparing. That's fine, thank you. Cool. So make sure you take this time at the beginning to prepare. Step away from your phones and laptops and only use them where necessary from now on. So physically, we're thinking about how we're feeling. Energetically, what does that leave? How about emotionally? How is the emotional level? How are you feeling? Are you a little bit wobbly tonight? Are you just had enough of this lockdown, or are you feeling quite good and quite blessed to have this time of peace and self-reflection? We should perhaps use it more for self-reflection. I'm sure lots of you are taking lovely walks and just thinking things through, where you are in life, what path you're on, etc. It's good for us. But I think we're all kind of over it now. I asked my optician today when it might be possible to see him, because I haven't been seen since I had my operation in my eye and I'm still a little bit concerned. And he said maybe first week in July. So that gives me something to think about, and things maybe starting to be more accessible by July. Okay, from your Shavasana now, please bend your knees and let the soles of your feet come together like making prayer hands, but with your feet. Sole touches sole. And from the sockets of your hips, you roll your thighs away from each other. And if that's very uncomfortable, pop the blocks under each knee, under each thigh to support the thighs if it feels too stressful for the groin or inner thighs at all. And then try to relax in this reclining butterfly. But when I say butterfly, don't move the legs like butterflies' wings like we sometimes do. Just allow them to settle. Releasing, surrendering, letting go. I thought I'd read to you a little bit tonight, not maybe in every pose, but from a lovely book. It was actually lent to me by Andrea. I don't think she's online tonight. And of course, I haven't seen her since to give it back to her, so I'm keeping it safe, Andy, if you tune in later. It's a book by Donna Farey. She's written quite a lot of books about yoga. She wrote, I think, that one of the very first books I bought called Yoga, Mind, Body and Spirit. This one's called Bringing Yoga to Life. By the way, if having your feet together, the legs dropping like this, is bothering your lower back, then move the feet further away from the groin. I think you all know that now. The tailbone comes slightly between the legs and the pelvic floor draws up. So energetically having this support from Mula Bandha, the pelvic floor lift. So I'm going straight into this book at chapter 5, and some of you might have heard the chapter before, but the way that things stick in our mind is when we hear them more than once. Repetition is the mother of mastery. And it's like your brain is a colander, and it's very gently getting drip fed the information, and it will hold on to the information that is most useful. So just a little bit of reading here left in this pose, a few more moments here in reclining butterfly. Slowing down. Slowing down is the precursor to yoga practice, because this simple act allows us to consider our thoughts, our feelings, and our actions more carefully in the light of our desire to live peacefully. When we overwork, when we try to fit too many things into an already congested schedule, when we rush from place to place, we lose track of what's important. And in doing so, we almost fail to serve those values that support our relationships, and our heartfelt aspirations. A certain harshness can creep into our interactions with others, and this is the same harshness we ourselves find so distressing and so undermining of our senses of connectedness. We can become curt with those around us in a way that belies their importance to us. Maybe we become so exhausted by all our busyness that we are irritable when we wish to be kind, thoughtless when we want our actions to be considerate. So before we sink our teeth into the foundations of yoga practice, consider this possibility that you have all the time you need. When you find yourself rushing, catch yourself and breathe out fully, affirming that you do indeed have time. You can ask yourself if the sky would fall down, if someone will die, or if the world will stop spinning, if you just sit down for 10 minutes and breathe. When we slow down, we create a conducive environment for thoughtfulness to flourish. We find that it isn't necessary to join peace demonstrations. We can demonstrate for peace by being peaceful. We can take time to chat with elderly neighbours, demonstrate through our bearing what our values are. When we slow down, we make a place for silence and solitude in our lives. Okay, bring your knees together. Now, this next pose, if we do it from reclining, you might find it a little bit tricky. So it might be best if you just bring yourself to sitting till I show you. I'd like you to try it from reclining, but come to sitting so you can see the screen. I'm going to turn so you can see my right leg. So I've just come out of butterfly and I've brought my knees together. The next thing I want to do is to try and catch my right ankle and then flip the leg round. So the top of your foot is on the mat outside of your right hip. Now I'll tell you, it is a big stretch in the right thigh and in the ankle. The left foot stays where it is, knee bent. If this isn't possible and your knee is way up here and you've only got your toes on the floor, then do it sitting and just come into the half hero in a sitting position, but try to have the foot outside of your thigh. So give it a go lying down. You won't know until you try. You're lying down, both knees are bent, and then you flip the right leg so that the knee is bent and you can see the sole of your foot. Too much, come up to sitting. And you can always put a block under your left buttock to make yourself more stable in the hips. More in line is probably a better what I'm trying to say. So I'm going to use my timer here. If you can manage to stay here now for 2.5 once I get my timer on. So settling into it. If the foot is too tight, put a towel or something underneath the foot. Right, 2.5. Sorry, it's more like 3 by the time I find the right timer. Confirm and ping. 2.5 minutes in reclining Supta Ardha Virasana. Lying on your back in half hero or half saddle. They call it saddle in yin yoga. There need be nothing complicated or austere about these practices. They are a natural component of any day lived at a human pace. One of my spiritual teachers is a man called Ernie, who probably has never read a spiritual book or sat on a meditation cushion in his life. Oh, you crazy people, he tells me, rushing around doing big important things. All you need is a little space out in nature. It heals most things, I reckon, says Ernie. A day with Ernie is a day spent with a master. He doesn't say much, but when he does, it's always an incisive observation. Sitting on the grass having lunch with him, you'll notice an air of stillness around him. He's simply pleased to be alive. taking in the day, listening to the birds, enjoying the fresh air. My, that sun feels good, he'll say. Neither is Ernie a couch potato. He can walk over a property and assess the most urgent tasks, the gate that needs mending, the thistles that need cutting. I'd remove that barbed wire if I were you, he tells me. And then without any fanfare, Ernie shows up with his tools and his sun hat, his socks and his sandals, and accomplishes, at a remarkably slow pace, more than most of us could do in a week. Striking up a conversation with the local farmers, I can feel myself starting to get edgy. There's work to do, and this chit-chat doesn't seem to be serving a purpose. After we turn back to work, Ernie has noted all the valuable information that has been exchanged. Told me exactly the species of oak that will thrive on this soil, he said. Good neighbours are mightily important. Never any time wasted making friends and good conversation. The chime's about to go. Bing. Can you now roll to your left and release your right leg? And then as you do, bring your right knee in for a hug. So if you were sitting up, lie down now and hug your right knee. Hold your right knee and just wriggle it closer to the right side of your torso. Not too far, don't go pushing it outside of your body. Your knee is pointing towards your right underarm. Just give it a good squeeze. Now stretch out your left leg and bring the right foot, you can use a strap here, bring the right foot above your right knee and hold the foot, or hold with a strap. And bring your right knee closer to the floor on the right side of your ribs. Keep the sole of the foot pointing up to the sky as if holding the sky up, and really try and get your left leg straight. Hold here, Ardha Ananda Balasana, half happy baby. Hold and stretch. Go back to the readings in a moment. Just hold this in silence. Concentrate on the left leg extending, the right leg bending more deeply, knee close to your underarm. Shoulders relaxed. So if it's not relaxing on your shoulders, use a strap. While you're holding this, just a reminder for those who might not have heard that next Tuesday's class will be on Zoom, so I can see you all. Just as an experiment, we will take a vote on who prefers Facebook Live, who prefers Zoom. So we'll try a week of Zoom, go back to Facebook, then I'm off for the first 2 weeks of July, and we'll pick it up from there on the deciding vote. A few more moments here in Ardha Ananda Balasana. And release. Bring the right foot down, bend the left leg at the knee. Now if you managed it on the other side, you're going to do the half hero, half saddle with the left leg. If you can catch your left ankle, you can always roll to your right for a moment to get the left leg into place. Try and get as much of the top surface of your foot down as possible. Keep right knee bent. This will help to keep you stable. Try and get the hips on the floor evenly. If you're doing it sitting, you can always put something under your right buttock. Sitting or reclining, half saddle. If you're doing the sitting version, the right leg can be straight. Yeah, let me readjust this. Reset. And 2.5. Back to Ernie's wisdom. Most of us could learn from spending a day with Ernie that a month in India sitting in a cave. Most of us could learn more from spending a day with Ernie than a month in India sitting in a cave. In yoga practice, we set up Ernie-like conditions in a more deliberate way, but there need be nothing contrived about making room for more quiet inward time. Although spending some time each day in formal solitary practice is helpful, we can practice an inward solitude, as Ernie has taught me, even when we're in company. By not talking so much, we automatically create more space in between things. By not doing so much, we create natural pauses to reflect. By not spreading ourselves thin doing things that aren't that important, we open up time for the things that are. You can anchor your desire to slow down by finding one thing in your life that defines this more natural rhythm. For instance, I decided years ago that it was a basic necessity to cook one good meal every day and take the time to enjoy it by myself or with others. If I don't have time for that one meal, there's something amiss with my life, and I adjust accordingly. Maybe for you, it's having the time to read a story to your child, or walking the dog, or spending part of the weekend tending your roses. Perhaps it's having the time to cuddle up with your partner and share the events of the day before you go to sleep. The degree to which you do not believe you have time to spend even 10 minutes sitting quietly is the degree to which you desperately need to spend 10 minutes sitting quietly. If we did nothing else in our spiritual practice but reduce our accelerated pace, the world could be transformed. When we find ourselves hurrying or pressing others out of our way, we might ask ourselves, just stay there another moment, we might ask ourselves exactly where are we going in such a rush? What are we running from? What are we running toward? So pause, relax, smell the air, look around you, take some deep breaths. This state of mind, called yoga, cannot be found anywhere else but here. The moment opens itself for you. Will you step in? Excuse me. Rolling over to the right if you're on the floor and taking the left knee up into your hands. Extend your right leg and squeeze the left. As you're holding your left and straightening your right, just encourage the left knee towards your armpit without swinging it too far open. So just keep it attached to your torso and give it a good squeeze. Extend through the sole of your right foot, pressing the right one away, flat down. Squeeze the left. You ready for Ardha Ananda Balasana? And lift the foot above the knee. Catch the foot with hand or strap and draw the knee down towards your left armpit. Reach out through the right leg and hold. Oh, lost my timer. Keep gently, but at the same time fairly firmly, asking the knee to come down a little bit deeper. Feeling a stretch behind the left thigh. I think that's the main place you'll feel it, maybe groin area. And it might be quite difficult for you to get your right leg completely straight. So you're working on both legs. You're working on your spine, staying down in alignment, relaxing your left shoulder. So like I said, use a strap if it's too much. Half happy baby. Half in yoga is Ardha. Happy, or actually the correct translation of the word is blissful, is Ananda. There's a lot of places in India called Ananda, a lot of sort of yoga retreats, etc. Ananda, and then something else, so it'll be blissful, whatever. Ananda Ashram, blissful peace of spiritual seeking. And this is Ardha Ananda Balasana, baby. Bala is baby or child. 15 seconds. And you might guess where this one is going. We are going into full happy baby, but first of all, release the legs. Release them, release them. Let them go and give them a good wiggle, jiggle, or windscreen wiper, whatever feels good. And then, when you're ready, bring both knees up. Now bring them wide as you bring them up. So knees towards your armpits. Hold your knees for a few moments. Just get them really wide. And then try to bring the feet directly above the knees, up in the air, like holding up the sky. And press. Now, this is a bit awkward to use a strap, so you would just hold your ankles or shins if you can't reach your feet. I think I said last time we did Happy Baby, I'm tending to hold the outside of the feet more these days. I used to be the inside, but now I'm trying to get so that I can see all 5 toenails in each foot and work the inner thighs in a little bit. So you don't want to be way out to the sides with your feet. Try and have them above your armpits, using your arm strength to press down towards the floor. Stay there until you hear the chime and then windscreen wipers. I'm going to go into a different chapter now. Chapter 7, the freedom of discipline. There's a quote here by a poet. Until one is committed, there is hesitancy, the chance to draw back, always ineffectiveness concerning all acts of initiative and creation. There is one elementary truth, the ignorance of which kills countless ideas and splendid plans, that the moment one definitely commits oneself, then providence moves too. All sorts of things occur to help one that would never otherwise have occurred. A whole stream of events issue from the decision, raising in one's favour all manner of unforeseen incidents and meetings and material assistance, which no man could have dreamed would have come his way. Whatever you can do or dream, you can. Simply begin. Boldness has genius, power, and magic in it. Begin. Begin it now. Discipline is decidedly unpopular notion these days, associated as it is with self-coercion and denial of pleasure. Far from the punitive and constricting connotations of the word as it's used today, the Latin origin of the word discipline, disciplina, I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce it, but it's spelt with an A at the end, means to impart knowledge and to enlighten. So discipline originally means to impart knowledge and to enlighten. One more minute here, just over a minute in Happy Baby. You can have a little rock side to side in Happy Baby if it feels good. Rather than constraining, discipline is in any practice that contains our thoughts, energy, and actions so that we can use ourselves in a potent way. Just as a bucket riddled with holes cannot carry water from one place to another, lack of containment of our physical, psychological, and psychic energies sabotages our best intentions. Most of all think that to discipline our lives most of us think that to discipline our lives would mean to dampen all the fun. We may see discipline on one side of the ledger as limiting our choices, and imagine the credit side as full of marvelous and spontaneous possibilities. We might notice that whenever we try to give a clear structure and shape to our actions, A subtle inner conflict pulls us almost instantly in a contradictory direction. I'll pause there. It's 10 seconds till we leave this. Okay, everyone. And then bringing the feet to the floor and allowing your legs to tick-tock side to side. Just let them sway. Side to side. And when you're ready, if you could find yourself your yoga strap, whatever belt you normally use in yoga practice, if you don't have anything like that, then a simple towel rolled up will be fine. We're going to stay on our back for one more pose before we change up to sitting, and that is the straight leg stretch with the strap in 3 directions. So in case you haven't done it before, again, very quick demonstration. I like to keep the opposite leg bent for the first 2 out of 3. So watch, left foot bent, strap around base of toes, heel is the highest point. This is the first direction. And then the reason I like this leg bent is because the second direction, the knee drops open and we stretch both inner thighs, yes? On the third one, the left leg straightens. We try and have the right leg directly above the hip, so not here if you're very flexible. Take it back a little above your hip socket, and then we take it across. Alrighty, that's your 3 directions. So lie down, bend both knees, and then bring your right knee towards you. Loop the strap around it. We're doing 2 minutes in each of the directions. You ready? Reach the right leg straight up in the sky. Now try to press up through the heel. Draw the forefoot down towards the shin so you can see all your toes. 2 minutes here. Make use of the strap so you're not lifting your shoulders off the floor, and have your arms completely straight. So the right back of leg, the whole length of the leg, by really pressing up through the heel, you should feel the calf as well. Press. Whole back of right leg. Left knee bent, left foot on the floor. When you hear the bell, you'll take the legs away from each other. What pulls us in this opposing direction is actually a healthy longing for the feeling of freedom. This longing is a vital component of any spiritual quest. We may so want this feeling of lightness and joy in our lives that we rush headlong and grab for whatever and whoever will provide us with some semblance of the feeling. Yet this freedom is like drinking salty water. The more we drink, the more we feel thirsty. When we channel our energy, we start to use the same longing and desire in a way that can bring deep satisfaction. An important part of learning to channel our energies is increasing our tolerance for staying in the pause between desire and satisfaction. This is a very important point. For some of us, even a momentary delay in quenching our longing can cause a feeling of inner panic, just as a person trying to quit smoking may struggle to overcome the urge. When we contain desire, we begin to understand what it is that we really crave and how we might put an end to that craving. Okay, you're almost ready, so take the strap into your right hand. Begin to rotate the left hip, point left knee out to the side, put your left hand on the inner thigh, and now swivel your right leg so you're looking at the inner leg and take it out to the right, but don't fall over onto it. Keep the buttocks level on the ground. So left knee pointing left, right straight leg pointing right. Try and have that movement from the hip. You can bend your elbow in this one and rest it on the floor. It's quite difficult to keep the arms straight here for 2 minutes. 2 minutes from now. Forgot to press, sorry. An essential element of increasing our skillfulness in this domain is learning to be in the pause between a feeling and a reaction. This is great when you apply this to your yin practice too. What happens in the pause between the longing for a feeling of freedom and how we respond to that longing is well worth considering further, because it's in the pause that we make a choice. For instance, we come home from work, and the moment we find the house empty, we feel a twinge of loneliness. We might feel a physical or mental fatigue from the demands of our day, or we might actually feel a pleasant silence within. Let's imagine that something in us wants comfort or a lightening of the spirit. This is a potent moment for many of us to experience daily, if not hourly, the moment of feeling a longing for happiness. If we can get comfortable in being in the pause, however it manifests for us physically, psychologically, and emotionally, we will have a better chance of responding to our longing in a way that is not simply a stopgap measure. Maybe we've become accustomed to grabbing for the remote, pouring a drink, reaching for our phone. Usually these mechanical strategies simply dull or numb our feelings. Millions of us worldwide spend a third of their waking lives glued to the TV, in a state of physical and emotional paralysis. Okay, pull both legs up to the center. Right leg is straight up. Now straighten your left. Make sure, like I showed you, the right leg is straight above the hip socket. Try not to have it further away. Try not to have it closer than straight above your hip. Take the strap into your left hand and guide your right leg across your body. Guide it across. I'd like to do this part with you as well, so I really need this stretch, so I'll be in silence for the next 2 minutes. You can put your right thumb in the little space, try and find space at the top of your thigh bone in the crease of the pelvis and press away. Again, you can rest your left elbow on the floor. Try not to roll too much with your left leg. Feeling the stretch on the outer right leg from buttock to foot. Keep your right shoulder down. A few more moments, everyone. 22 moments. Noticing all the sensation in the right leg. Maybe a bit in the left as well as you attempt to stop it rolling onto its little toe edge. 5. And come up powerfully to the center, bend both knees, take the strap away, place both feet flat on the floor before you do the other side. Just pause a moment. And gather the strap now around the left base of the toes. Please try not to go into the instep itself, just at the base of the toes, and extend left leg up, keeping right foot on the floor. Right knee bent, left leg in the air. Press up through the heel. Get the heel as the highest point. 2 minutes. What might happen if we all had the presence of mind and the wherewithal to really be in each pause and ask what would truly satisfy us? When we contain rather than constantly discharge our feeling state, we allow ourselves to feel completely. In feeling completely, we re-experience our aliveness and the source of that aliveness. When we cultivate the discipline to pause, it becomes possible for us to make a choice that is outside our habits. And it is in breaking through these entrained patterns that we can begin to experience a more liberated state of being. Gradually, we become the freedom that we previously longed for. Oh, I like that line. So if I'm not always reaching for the TV remote, not always reaching for, I don't know if any of you smoke, but the cigarette, not always reaching for whatever it is we fill the pauses with, gradually we become the freedom that we previously longed for. According to tantric teachings, the esoteric practice of activating one's innate spiritual energy, mind and prana, the life force behind all movement, manifest as two aspects of unity. Mind is that which is aware, prana, the active energy that gives support to the awareness. Now we're just about ready to go to the outside. So begin to spin your right leg out to the right, put your right hand on it, left hand on the left hand holding the strap, spin your left leg so you can see the inner leg and take it out to the left. Right knee pointing right, left leg straight out to the left. Bend the left elbow to stop your arm aching. When we learn to master the mind, we automatically master the movement of prana and vice versa. The aim of any system of meditation or spiritual attunement is to master this movement of awareness. What we discipline then is the movement of awareness, training ourselves to stay with rather than run from all that we experience. When we choose to stay with our practice despite the inevitable highs and lows, we are actively choosing to focus our awareness on that part of us that is unchanging. With each practice session, we start to identify with the steady part of ourselves. When we're feeling sad, we practice. When we're feeling happy or excited, we practice. When we're in the depths of grief, we practice. When we have 1,000 other things to do, we practice. We do not practice to rid ourselves of feelings or suppress them. Neither do we practice out of stoic denial. We practice through thick and thin, happy and unhappy times, and then we are saying, sadness is moving through me, but sadness is not who I am. Excitement is moving through me, but that is not who I am. Grief is moving through me, but grief is not only who I am. Bring the legs both up to the center. Well done. Now straighten your right. Take the strap again in the right hand. It's on your left foot, but it's your right hand. Bring the left leg straight above the left hip and guide it over to across the right leg to the right. Try not to let your right leg roll. Again, slide the elbow to the floor, slide your hand down the strap so it's more comfortable. Last 2 minutes, last one of this three-way strap stretch. I was going to do this one in silence again so I can join in. So control that right leg, try not to let it roll, and take the left leg across. Again, maybe with your left thumb, press into the crease at the top of your thigh. So it's like you're trying to get your left buttock, rather than hitching out to the left, you're trying to get the roundness of your left buttock to face down where your right foot is, face the end of your mat. That makes sense? Try and keep shoulders on the floor. The more you push with your heel of this crossed leg, the more you'll feel it in the lower leg as well as the upper hip and thigh. Try squeezing your right inner thigh, rolling it in towards your left leg. If the foot has pins and needles, bend your left knee a little. Eight seconds. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And everything back to the center. Pop your strap to one side. Bring both feet to the floor, and really whatever feels good, but good old windscreen wipers, it's usually nice after anything like that where we hold for a while. And then when you're ready, it's time to come to sitting. Hopefully those previous stretches are going to help you with this next one. You could have either or both a blanket rolled up or some blocks. I'd like us to try, and if this is not possible, you can put your left leg out to the side, but maybe bring your left heel towards your groin and relax the left leg like so. If that's too uncomfortable on the left knee, just get your left leg out of the way. So it's either out of the way by being stretched out to the left, or it's out of the way by being tucked in. So we can concentrate on our right leg. You can do this without props depending on the rotational aspect of your right hip. All of that, especially going outside with the leg there, should have helped. I would like this right leg to come in front of us into half fire log pose, square it's often referred to. So you can see the inner seam of your yoga pants. You want to bring the right leg forward. Now your knee might be up here. So this is where a block could come in handy. You can put one under your knee, but you can also put it under your foot, because sometimes this is more achievable. That actually feels quite a bit better. So see what you can do to try and get this straight line here from a flexed right foot. Let me get my left leg out the way, I think you might see it better. From the ankle of your right foot, you want the heel to be the widest point to the right, drawing the forefoot back. And then you're trying to get a straight line with the knee, and then the knee with the hip. So it's like half of a framed picture, yes? The bottom or the top, and then one side. Then you're trying to come very upright. I think it is actually better with the left leg straight, to be honest. When we use a bolster, we often have it tucked in. So play around with it, but do try to get this shape. See what it's like with or without props. You might just need a prop under the knee, but it might feel good to have the knee lifted. Or you might get flat down like so. If you're getting the right knee down but your left buttock's off the floor, then you can take a few breaths and try to get everything down, okay? But again, the knee might lift up. So the more I press into my left buttock, the more my right knee lifts. But what I can do is lean on it. I can lean just to the right side here. So if we got that, I'm going to stay here for 2 minutes. Where were we? When we practice anyway, whatever is happening in our emotions, we make space to fully experience our feelings, while at the same time not allowing those feelings to paralyze or solidify into our identity. This paying attention to the ground of the mind is like observing the sky rather than the things in it. We may notice a bird flying through the sky, but certainly the sky does not become smudged from the movement. Today it may be rainy, but somehow the sky does not become wet. Tomorrow it's sunny, but the sky doesn't ignite into flames. The next day there may be an exciting show of thunder and lightning, yet no one rushes around trying to repair the sky. In the same way, when we have the discipline to stay with our practice, we insist on remaining identified with our own neutral witness, the part of us that stays the same, regardless of the passing show. I like that analogy. Another 30 seconds here. Ten seconds and we'll change legs. Okay, sit back if you were forward folding and extend your right leg. Oh, feels good to stretch it out. Bring the left one in front. Now, you remember you're not pulling it in, so you're trying to get the left buttock to, so if you think about the edge of your mat, from the outer left hip to the outer left knee, match the edge of your mat. From the front of your left knee to the front of your left ankle, match the short end of your mat. Press the heel of your left foot as the widest point. Draw the toes back towards you. Again, maybe propping it up will help, or even if it's the knee that needs propped up, pop something under it. A blanket would be nice, or a block. And if it's just a little bit off the floor and you're managing to keep your right bottom cheek down, then maybe just lean. I mean, don't be shoving, don't be pushing your weight into the knee, but gently lean to the left, a little twist, or you can be folded over the leg like so. So wherever works for you. Yoga tells us that our biggest obstacle in perceiving reality as it is our habit of identifying with and participating in the stuff that fills our mind. What is this mind stuff? Latent impressions are left in our minds from past experiences in the form of memories, which tend to dictate our way of seeing things as in the present, and thus further determine the shape of our future. As if our minds are not already filled to the brim with past impressions, we further complicate our mind state by making things up, filling the mind with fantasies and fears about things that haven't happened. The habit of participating in all of this tomfoolery itself forms more latent impressions, which strengthens our conviction that this is who we are. It is as if we have become so used to dressing in masquerade that we start to see ourselves as our fantasy character. When we establish a habit of shifting this identification so that we participate with the background of thought, the silent ground of consciousness, this too forms an impression. Just as the impressions left by the constant stream of thoughts and sensations tend to propel more of the same, The impressions left through participation with the silent substrate of consciousness generates a flow of itself. Silence begins to flow through us as our fundamental state of being. This is as it has always been. Okay, everyone, stretch it out. It's about to get a little deeper. Shiggle out your legs. Go back to the right leg. Bring it in. Is it a bit easier now? Maybe? So bump the outside of your hip towards the straight edge of your mat and match that with the outside of your knee. You can still use props, so you can still have something under this right knee. And then leaning into this right leg, so you might rock all the way off your left buttock. That's okay. You can reach forward like this. And then bend your left leg at the knee and bring the left leg ankle, some of you know what's coming, full square. It's called Agni, A-G-N-I, means fire. Agni Stambhasana. Stamba means a log. Fire log or square pose. Ankle on the inside of the knee, a little bit up, so it's on the thigh a little bit, but not up here. It's not lotus, it's square. Outer knee above the right ankle. Now you might be like this, and that's okay. You can lean back, but better still, fill the gap. Fill the gap between the right big toe edge and the left outer knee. If it's not too big a gap, don't bother filling it. Again, just lean, maybe a little bit more to the left or central, or sit back from it if it's quite intense. It can be very intense here. Listen, we're holding this double the time. That was 2 minutes single. Next one, this one is 4. Do what you can. Try your best to stay with it, breathe with it. Bolster it up, do what needs to be done, but still feeling sensation. Nothing new has been created. We simply have cleared a pathway through which the silence can flow and regenerate. This new impression, like the sky, is itself impressionless. It does not offer itself as a ground for collecting new material. What began as an outer imposed discipline, that is, what we have to do to shift the mind's focus, becomes an inner discipline that generates itself. This self-generative process is always fresh and original, giving us the freedom to be and act authentically. There's a wonderful story about Milarepa, the 11th century Buddhist poet, saint and yogi, who reached enlightenment in his lifetime. This was rather an extraordinary accomplishment, given that at the various times in his life he had been a scoundrel, a murderer, a thief, a liar, a suicidal depressive. In essence, someone most of us could relate to. Yet Milarepa managed to harness his energy with such masterful awareness that he became one of Tibet's most cherished teachers. I must look up the pronunciation of that. A young man who had the good fortune to meet him was so moved by his accomplishments that he offered his most valued possession, his beautiful horse. The young man said to him, "To a man of the world, a good horse is his pride. I give you this fine horse as an offering, praying that you may keep me from hell, into which I else would fall." To which Milarepa replied, "A horse of prana mind have I. I adorn him with the silk scarf of dhyana. His skin is the magic ensuing dhyana stage, his saddle illuminating self-awareness. My spurs are the 3 visualizations, his crupper the secret teachings of the 2 gates. His headstall is the prana of vital force, His forelock curl the three-pointed time. Tranquility within is his adornment. Bodily movement is his rein. An ever-flowing inspiration is his bridle. He gallops wildly along the spine's central path. He is a yogi's horse, this steed of mine. By riding him, one escapes samsara's mud. By following him, one reaches the safe land of Bodhi. There's a lot to explain in that verse, and too much for this type of class. It's deep esoteric things in there. Some of you will have understood some of it, the dhyana and the visualization, three visualization, the two gates, etc., etc. But there's a lot of stuff in there. But it almost filled 4 minutes, 20 seconds. How's your square? How's your agni? You fire in your hips, it's a good thing, I promise. Ping. That means we can release, but you might be thinking, aha, we're getting to release, but we need to do it the other way around. You would be right. Kick out your legs, everyone. Give them a good wiggle, a jiggle. And then with your left one out of the way to begin with, your right one out of the way to begin with, bring your left leg down. I'm so used to teaching mirror image that my right leg has now be called my left. So your left leg is the underneath one this time. Bump the outside of your left hip. Remember, you want to match the straight edge of your mat from outer hip to outer knee. The knee maybe doesn't want to go down, so gently lean forward, allowing this right buttock clean off the ground. Flex the left foot. Draw the toes back towards the shin. Please don't do this with your toes pointed out. Draw the foot into flexion. Ready? Grab a hold of your right foot, again with flexion, and press the ankle on top. If there's a bit of a space, fill it with a block or a blanket or something. Or you can lift the underneath foot. So instead of filling the gap, you can put a block there to put your left foot on, and then your right knee might match. Yeah, just try a few things until you can more or less settle. But it is tense for most of us. You've got very open hips and you like these rotations, then you'll be happy to stay 4 minutes. Otherwise, you might be cursing me a little bit. Try to listen to the readings to slightly, ever so slightly, distract you from the sensations. Be with the sensations. The untrained, habitual mind is often compared to a drunken monkey. But like Milarepa, I like the image of the wild horse better. For in this archetype we see the potential for what was once uncontrolled impulsive energy to be channeled into harmonious action. As a horsewoman, I have experienced firsthand how disciplined training can transform a potential lethal animal into a creature of magic that can remove human limitations and give unfathomable joy to her steward. And I have looked on as riders with poorly trained horses spend their mounted hours fighting, bucking, balking, and bolting horses. Even as their fingers bleed from the pull of the reins, they will not consider taking time to retrain their mounts, declaring all the while that they ride for pleasure and not to make it into work. Most will look on in envy at the rider with loose reins and relaxed horse, convinced that this accomplishment is sheer luck, or that the rider simply got a good horse. It's like the old adage, the harder I work, the luckier I get. In the same way, I've overheard yoga students admire the accomplished demonstration of a yoga pose, as if it had come floating down on a stream in a basket, and wondered how they could get so lucky. If we look at the admirable traits and accomplishments of others, we almost always find a commitment to disciplined practice. It's only when we're willing to be honest with ourselves and give up the artifice that we're having a good time that we can give ourselves wholeheartedly to the task at hand. This is the beginning of getting our energy to work for us rather than against us. Regardless of the specific form of meditation we choose or the specific style or tradition of yoga we practice, we can begin to channel our energy by asking, are my choices in life supporting what is deeply satisfying? Are my choices leading to long-term freedom or short-lived pleasure? If we went through an average day asking these questions, our day might look quite different. These kinds of questions lead us to evaluate what's important to us and to choose to what purpose we will devote our time and energy. When we're tempted to press the snooze on our alarm, we can ask whether 30 minutes more sleep will bring us the same results as 30 minutes of yoga practice. If we do not have the energy for practice, then why not? Do we awaken feeling tired because we overate or overthought the night before, chronically overworked our minds so that we feel depleted and irritable? Can we take responsibility for the untold ways we cop out? When students of Baba Haridas, a long-time silent sadhu and spiritual leader, asked him how they could get out of bed early enough to practice, he responded by writing on his board, "Get up at 5 a.m. every day, no matter what, and after a while, you will go to bed at 10 p.m. Makes sense? Okay, yogis, from your disciplined square pose, remember next week I'll be able to see if you're disciplined enough to sit in these poses. Stretch out your legs. Oh. Some of you I haven't even seen your faces before. I don't even know what Rebecca looks like. I'll be able to see you. I hope you can all make it on Zoom next week. Just to mention again that Zoom is more like coming into the studio, so you must be there on time. There'll be no entry after 6:15 passes. So we'll give you more time. It'll open about 6, I would think it would be best. And I'll send the code onto this page next Tuesday. All right, where are we going? We're going into downward facing dog. If you could just have a look for a moment where our down dog is going. So have a wee look. So in a moment, we'll go into our plank. We'll go into a downward facing dog and we'll stay there a few moments. Then from down dog, we're going to step our feet to the very outer edges of our mat, with the heels maybe going a little bit wider than the toes, and then walk our hands a little bit closer, and a little bit closer, and a little bit closer, keeping our hips right above our ankles, and maybe then taking a hold of the ankles and hanging out here. It's not dangling, it is stretching when the buttocks up and the head down. But first of all, downward facing dog. Let's do it. And your hands nicely spread. Really stretch into the underside of all the knuckles, especially your index finger knuckles, and reach out through the webbing between index finger and thumb. Stretch the hands, roll back the shoulders, find plank, and then up with your hips. Press the torso back towards the thighs, keeping your hands where they were, downward facing dog for a few moments. Stretch out those legs that were bent at the knees for so long, stretch them. Pressing backwards and downwards towards the floor with your heels. These are just short in-between poses to stretch out the tension. Now, looking through at your feet, bring the feet to the outer edges and kick your heels out even wider. Then bring the hands a little closer, pause just a little bit to start with. Make sure the weight's still moving through this whole surface of your feet. And then a little closer. If that's enough, then stay where you are. or bring the hands really close to your feet and fold in against the legs. You can go wider if you wish. If you're used to Hatha yoga and more yang styles and you like the wide leg forward bend, you can go for that instead. You can still hold on to the ankles. So find a width that is a nice stretch for you. This is a little bit more yang activity than yin. And draw yourself in between the legs. Some of you might get your head to the floor, so allow that, but don't rock forward onto your head, only if it naturally comes to the floor. Think of the buttocks going up, up, up. A few more seconds. Now find the floor with your hands and start to work your legs back into down dog. Gently, gently does it. Back into downward facing dog. And then from there, either bring the knees down first and then lunge the right foot forward, or from your down dog, step right foot forward, left knee down, bring right leg almost to the outer edge on the right, but don't let the leg drop open, keep it in. And either with blocks, so you can grab blocks, or your rolled up blanket, so you could do something like this, on blocks or blanket, or just on the mat into lizard or low flying dragon, you could call it. In yin, it's usually the dragons. So we're trying to come deep. You're feeling the top of your left thigh on the leg behind you, and maybe the groin, all the muscles of the inner thighs as you stretch. Give you time for this, not 4 minutes, so that would be too much. Can we do 2 here? I hear you saying yes, hopefully. Try not to roll to the outer left leg. So with your right leg forward and wide, keep the inner thigh nice and close to you. With your left leg, bring the frontal left hip bone inwards and then down as deeply as you can, but don't fall over to the left, yes? Low flying dragon. Forgotten where we were. Oh yes, get up at 10. Go to bed at 10 to get up at 5. So how do you get up early? You just get up early and then you'll start to go to bed earlier. When we sidestep our practice, what are we escaping from? When we can't make time to practice, what are we avoiding? Usually we're escaping from all the little demons that have set up shop in our minds and hearts, who are currently having a reckless fiesta party, and the drinks are on us. We may also be escaping from a feeling we find uncomfortable, or from the very questions that might lead us to reassess our lives. Often these feelings have to do with a terrible sense of meaningless, an emptiness that we try to fill or cover up. Any evasion will do as long as it serves to deflect and delay the experiences, the source of our unease. Or we have a deeply ingrained unconscious fear of failure, and taking the risk to make a go of anything that really matters to us puts us smack dab in the middle of our fear. Okay, everyone, coming up from your low-flying dragon, keep the right leg and left leg where it is. Then, can you take your left hand firmly on the floor, and looking round to your right, can you bring the right arm round behind your waist? And if this is uncomfortable, you could maybe come a bit higher on your left hand, if that helps. Right arm behind the waist. Now look round. We've done this before. You try and bring your right knee a bit more forward over the body of the foot, hips coming forward, looking over your right shoulder, and then maybe bring the left heel up towards your bottom. Just a few seconds. Breathe. Bring your head away from your left shoulder. Look towards your right foot as it comes towards your right buttock. Stretch the front thigh on your left leg. 10 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Gently bring left foot down. Move the block out your way. Bring both hands down, downward facing dog. Stretch out. Low flying dragon and quad stretch on the left leg. Knees can come down first, remember, or lunge. And as the left foot comes forward, take it wider. Bring right knee down, well behind. Get a good stretch going on at the top of your right thigh. Bring hands forward, put forearms on a blanket, on blocks, or on the mat. And stay there. 2 minutes. We're almost there already. Hope the readings has given you some food for thought. So, when we insist on getting up early in the morning, when we insist on staying with our practice, our meditation or our physical practice for the agreed time, when we insist on practicing every day, we make space to visit the questions. And we can be assured that when we begin to insist on this new game plan, the executive ego will predictably balk. It's too cold, it's too hot, it's too early, it's too late, it's too noisy, or heaven forbid, it's too quiet. We're too stiff, too hungry, too tired, too nervous, too busy, too bored, too distracted, too upset to practice. When we hear our executive ego whispering these endless excuses and evasions, we can make note of the excuse and do our practice anyway. We can develop a sense of humour when we hear ourselves come up with the wildest evasions and do our practice anyway. This is how we begin to rein in the mind. And as we learn to rein in the mind and rein in our actions, we gain control over our lives. It would be unbalanced to say that practice is simply about facing our demons or facing what's unpleasant, unfinished, unresolved in our lives. As the mind becomes more centered in stillness, we rediscover the intrinsic loveliness of the mind and how wonderful it is to go through the day with the support of a centered mind. Okay, are you ready? So you're going to come up onto your hands. You're looking over, so maybe have a block under your right hand for more space. You're looking over your left shoulder and you bring the right foot up. I'll join you since I did the other side. Your left hand's behind your waist. You're looking over your left shoulder. That might be enough. And then maybe as the left knee travels a little more forward and the hips come a little bit more closer to the floor, the right leg can bend, you can grab the foot and stretch. I think I need this. Stretch the heel towards your bottom. There should be no pain in the knee. If the leg's far enough back, you're not actually on the patella, you're on the thigh. Patella is the floating bone of the kneecap. So I want to really be leaning forward to get off of that bone or it will be uncomfortable. The only discomfort should be in the stretch of your quads, the 4 big muscles in the front of your right thigh right now. Okay, 10. 4, 3, 2, 1, and release. Downward facing dog, everyone. On you go. Downward facing dog. From downward facing dog, when you're ready, come lying down on your belly. If you wish, you can unroll your blanket a little bit. Rather than it being rolled, maybe just make a nice flat surface about this size for under your pelvis. I always think that feels nice in Sphinx. So we're almost finished. Pelvis supported, hip bones, pubic bones supported. So especially if you are quite bony in the frontal hip bones, it feels nice to have a little support there. You can have your arms apart like we do in traditional Sphinx, or you can have your hands together in a gentle prayer pose, or you can bring yourself down into TV watching pose on your elbows, head and hands. Just watch you don't overarch the back of your neck. So last, let's do 3. How does that sound? 3 minutes. And then we just need a little twist after this, and there'll be a few moments of meditation. As the body becomes strong, flexible, and relaxed, we rediscover the joy of physical vitality and how wonderful it is to be able to do all the things that we enjoy without restrictions. Through ever-increasing skillfulness, we become more adaptable in response to life's demands. But it's not just the positive after effects of the practice that keep us motivated. It's the deep satisfaction within the practice. It's the gradual cessation of conflict as we learn to inhabit the pause between desire and satisfaction. As we become that which we seek, there is no one and no thing left to discipline. Why then can it be so hard to devote ourselves to a sustained practice? Resistance to practice occurs when we have not yet formed a clear intention. Until we do that, we cannot rally our energy or align it with our goal. We have to know what it is that we really want. We may say we're practicing yoga because we want to become more flexible or fitter, but until we understand that what we really want is to feel truly alive, there will always be a contrary movement that pulls us in a negative direction. Once we find the core of our intention, it acts like a laser to cut through the endless excuses. We stop having a devil on one shoulder and an angel on the other, battling it out in a tit-for-tat competition. Instead, we align ourselves from the center of our intention, and the friction of opposing forces ceases to obstruct our momentum. When we avoid practice, we often are also failing to distinguish between stimulation and agitation. We may interpret peacefulness as dullness. Once a friend sympathetically shared how hard it must be for me to live in the country where nothing ever happens, and I assured her that every day my garden was a theatre of sensual drama, colours changing, seasons shifting, the sounds of the birds and the wildlife. I countered by asking her how stimulating she found her 2-hour commute to work. Okay, we're about to come out of this. So begin to press up onto your hands and knees, everyone. Lifting up, moving your support. There we go. And just do 3 cow cats. Drawing in your belly lightly and breathing in to press chin and chest forward. Breathing out to round the back, squeeze the tummy up to cat. 2 more. And adjust the timer. We'll do 1 minute each side in reclining twist. When you're finished your cow cat, you come onto your back, please, with your arms out to either side. And then bring both knees to the right and the head gently to the left. As always with the reclining twist, where your knees end up is really up to your spine. So they can just be out like so, in line with your hips, or nudge them up in line with your waist, or towards your underarm and hug them there. You can even straighten them out if that gives you more. But it's just for a minute each side, and then it's relaxation. We're just about out of time. I'd like to finish this page. Might get through it. A participant once arrived at an intensive yoga retreat declaring that her life was a chaotic mess. Her body felt battered by a poor diet and lack of exercise, and the stress of her job had left her so filled with anxiety that she needed sleeping pills to sleep and tranquilizers to get through the day. On the one day of the retreat in which participants had an opportunity to practice silence, she chose instead to leave the site to wine and dine at a local hotspot. Curiously, after a few days, she proclaimed, "I long to corrupt you all." I wondered whether this measured lifestyle of the retreat setting translated in her mind into a kind of death, and it was this interpretation that made it so hard for her to lead a balanced life. Let's bring our twist to the other side, settling into the place that's right for you on this side. Okay. Whether our discipline grants us greater freedom or not depends on what drives us to practice. Are we driven by fear or by joy? By terror of the magnitude of life in an attempt to make our lives small enough to feel safe? Are we driven by a longing to become strong, to endure the larger life that's possible? If we use our practice to shield ourselves from the world, or to obsessively control our real thoughts or feelings, no amount of practice will bring the happiness we desire. When our practice is driven by a need to make our life predictable and secure, the results will be psychologically and spiritually stifling. Just got 2 more paragraphs I'll read when you come out of this pose. I don't like to leave things unfinished. Okay, we're done with timings. Bring yourself into a relaxed position, Shavasana. Shava means corpse pose, so you're temporarily dropping your body off, but the mind stays here. The ears still listen, the body drops off. Cover your eyes if you have something to cover them. Relax your body. Last 5 minutes. I remember this last 2 paragraphs, so just to finish this chapter on discipline. Years ago, I invited a very respected teacher to come and share his knowledge with my students. This teacher was revered for his strict practice regime. Indeed, he had a little book detailing exactly what he was going to do every day of the week. Although the technical information he had to impart was of value, it soon became apparent that his foremost concern was in adhering to his own practice schedule. Such was his obsession that one afternoon he got up while the class was still in relaxation, got dressed, and left. All so he could keep up his routine. His instructions were almost unanimously negative, offering a litany of all the things the students needed to correct. At the end of the intensive, when it's traditional for the teacher to thank the students and the students to have a chance to show their appreciation, he simply dashed out of the door without so much as a goodbye. The students who had given him their fullest attention for 3 days were disheartened. Perhaps the questions that this incident provoked were as valuable as the intensive itself. After this experience, I began to wonder about my own perfectionist tendencies. Any practice can be used as a shield to protect us from life. Discipline can be just as effective as sloth in helping us escape reality. We can schedule and fill up our day with many plans that there's not even the smallest crack for the outside influence to seep in. If we find that any variation in our routine evokes a sense of insecurity, then we may be using discipline to cordon ourselves off from the greater challenge of securing our spiritual practice in the ground of everyday life. Achieving a dynamic balance between aspiration and actuality can be our gauge for knowing whether or not our discipline is setting us free. Food for thought, everyone. Now notice all the things I asked you to notice at the beginning of class, when you first lay down here almost 90 minutes ago. How is the physical body? Does it feel different? More space? Space everywhere, emotionally, physically, mentally. How's the energetic levels? Perked up what was too dull? Dampened down anything that was too erratic in the mind? How has the whole practice left you in all aspects, physically, mentally, emotionally? Be aware. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Our practice tonight has come to a close. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace, peace. Stretch and yawn. Give yourself some movement through the ends of your fingers and toes. Wiggle and stretch. Blink your eyes and come and say goodbye to each other. Thank you so much for allowing me to guide you again this evening. I hope you've enjoyed your practice and got something from the readings as well. And next week, I'll see all your faces on Zoom. If you haven't used Zoom before, I'll try and talk to you at the beginning, of course, about how to get the best. If you only want to see me so you can see the movements, you can just sort of spotlight the teacher and have me on the screen, and whereas I'll have you all on what's called gallery view so I can see everyone. But we'll all be on gallery view to begin with. We'll have our mics open for a few moments so that we can all say hi to each other, and then we'll mute all our mics, but keep your cameras on so I can see your bodies. That's next Tuesday evening on Zoom. The code will be on this page in plenty time before your practice. For now, thank you again. Any questions, please put them on the board here. Thank you so much. Namaste. Namaste. Oh, very quickly, Pink Lotus Yoga Festival website is live. You can't buy tickets until the end of June, but all the information is there about everything that's happening on the September weekend, 19th, 20th. Have a look. Pink Lotus Yoga Festival wordpress.com, or just look up Pink Lotus Yoga Aberdeen, it'll link you straight there. Thank you. Namaste.